That is hilarious.
Cameron will be 2 by the time baby's born. Barely, barely 2.
That way you can get over. Huge problem.
It's not.
I still, hello, can you guys hear me? See, I can't get to,
Stay very.
Hi, Melanie, we can hear you.
Sad.
okay, now you can hear me. Okay, never mind. Thanks, Will. Bye.
Hello, Melanie.
Okay, so you can
We
hear me
can-
now.
She taught me today.
We can hear you now, yes.
I can see
Okay,
your
thanks.
initials.
Section this morning.
Okay, wait,
But we
now.
haven't officially even started the meeting yet. They're still setting up.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Bonnie's uncle was,
here we go.
John Fraser at the medical group. He was a surgeon. He's got some stories. We signed in?
Lights,
We ready?
action.
Bring it.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Today's December 11th, 9:04 a.m. Thank you to the staff for setting up this morning's commission meeting. And welcome here to this Hawaii's winter wonder rainy land today. So we're glad to be here. Let's get our gears in place and let's move on. I'm going to do a roll call real quick as I call this meeting to order. I'm here, Mike Town,
Here.
Martha Tornay,
Here.
Mark Browning,
Here.
me, I'm here, Mark Patterson, and
Ron.
Ron Odibara is excused. He's on his way back from the mainland at this time. So we do have quorum and we can move forward with our meeting. I'll take a motion to accept and approve the meetings of the November 13th, 2025 meeting.
So move.
Second.
It has been moved by Mike Town and seconded by Martha Tornay that we accept the minutes of the 2025 November 13th meeting. Are there any discussion at this time? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say same. Any abstentions? Motion passed. To move on to item number 4 on our agenda today. 5. Our monthly update from the Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. Tommy Johnson couldn't be here with us today, so we have in his place the deputy, Melanie Martin. Melanie, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you. Dr. Johnson is traveling. He is at a conference, so he sends his regrets. For the director's report, he wanted to notify the commission and everyone listening that the governor approved 35 healthcare positions for the department, and it's 35 positions. So there are 7 clinical psychiatrists, 10 advanced practice registered nurses, and 18 registered nurses. And these are positions that we really needed in light of a settlement agreement. And so we're really, really, really excited that these positions were supported. So moving on to the DCR's December events. On December 5th, the Women's Community Correctional Center hosted a women's empowerment conference, and Councilmember Esther Kiana was the keynote speaker. On December 6th, there was a Ohana Day at the women's facility. Approximately 40 women incarcerated and more than 70 of their family members enjoyed the day with Santa and having all of these festivities, holiday festivities. On December 11th, that's today, there's a graduation ceremony at the women's facility for GED and culinary arts program. Also happening today is the Laumaka Work Furlough Center Career Fair, and more than a dozen individuals incarcerated will be participating. December 14th, there's a Winter Wonderland at Keiki Day at Waiava Correctional Facility. And then also, well, actually, let me back up. December 13th, this Saturday, we are participating in a AEA community parade as well as a fun fair. So we are going to be representing DCR to not only talk about our new Oahu jail, but to promote recruitment. So HR will be there as well. And then on December 14th, like I mentioned, Waiava Correctional Facility has their Winter Wonderland Keiki Day. December 15th, there's a Yuletide commencement at Halava Correctional Facility, celebrating growth and gratitude. So that's because there are college residents from Chaminade and Windward Community College that will be showcasing their talents and performances with creative works. On December 19th, whoa, we're busy. Yeah, I'm almost done. There's a cash box graduation at Wayava. And then also on that same day, there's a dental assistant training graduation at the women's facility. Okay, so those are our December events. I'm going to move on to staff wellness and staffing activities. So Chicago Beyond is an organization that DCR has been working with, and there was a national convening in October, and some of our staff from Halava as well as the women's facility went. But the surprise at this national convening is that Keiki Okaina, our service provider, received $100,000 to continue family reunification programs throughout the state. So we're super excited about that. Moving on to our staff bonus response team policy and procedure. You won't believe it, but we finally effectuated this policy on December 5th. So we convened our team yesterday for a meeting. We're moving forward with a staff wellness response team. And this, just for anyone who's curious, this team will assist individuals in crisis as well as provide group crisis intervention. And they're going to respond to critical incidents and also provide peer counseling support. Related to this initiative is that DCR is going to, submitted for the governor's approval in the legislative package, upcoming legislative package, an amendment to HRS 7852, which relates to peer support counseling sessions. And what this is going to do is it's going to extend the confidentiality protections currently in place for law enforcement and first responders to correctional officers. So we're really excited. If it does make it to into the governor's package, we hope the commission will support that initiative. Just a couple of other things on recruitment and retention. We had a virtual recruitment event on December 4th where we had an ACO panel talking about recruitment and the life and what it's like to work as an ACO. We also had HR on that virtual recruitment event, answering questions about benefits and all of that good stuff about working for the DCR. And as mentioned before, we're going to participate in the community parade and fun fair this Saturday to hopefully recruit some quality correctional workers. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Melanie. I want to open it up at this particular time for any public testimony. Georgie, let me know if anybody raises your hand. One in the room. Ken? Kat. Go ahead, Kat.
Kat, yeah.
Commissioners, I'm curious about Chicago Beyond. And I would like to know what their experience has been and who they have worked with and what the outcomes were. I've never heard of this, but I know that Amend came to Hawaii and offered their help, and the director basically didn't accept that. But Amend has a long history and current work, past work, and things that we could look at. So before we invest in something, I would like to know a little bit more about that. Reentry is really close to my heart, and I would like more information from the department on their experience, their current work, and all like that. Thank you.
Thank you, Kat. Any more questions or testimonies on what was just presented by the department? Okay, commissioners.
I have.
Go ahead.
Melanie, this is Martha. And recruitment, I really commend the department for doing their very, very best to have people come and apply for jobs. I am concerned though, and it's not your problem, it's DHERD's problem about how long it takes from the time that somebody applies for a job with us and actually is brought into the system. Because my understanding is we continue to lose people along the way who were interested because of the length of time. Is that your experience also?
Yes, 100%. It takes a while for us to onboard, especially our adult corrections officers, because of the lengthy process of the application process being so lengthy. However, the HR team has worked with DHERD on streamlining it a little bit more through the Wiki program, and the HR staff have been working with DHERD to get the applicants to us sooner. And then also we're working with a company called All Star Talent to help us not only with recruitment, but also to streamline and to enhance communication with applicants, because we all know that sometimes when we don't communicate with applicants and we take a while, they kind of drop off because we're not in communication with them. So those are a couple of things that we are trying to do. And not only the recruitment and the lengthy process, but we're having trouble with retention, as you all know. And what we're doing for that is we partnered with Desert Waters Outreach to do a Train the Trainer series on corrections fatigue to fulfillment, as well as another course called towards corrections fulfillment. And this is to address the burnout, the fatigue, the depression, the anxiety that a lot of our correctional workers face in our facilities. And this program we're going to launch in early 2026 because all the trainers have been trained, and we are super excited to bring this to DCR's facilities. And hopefully this will help with retention and, quite honestly, morale. So those are the couple of things that we're doing to try to get more people on board and for them to stay.
I'm going to ask the chair and others here. I would like in the future, because the retention is very important too, if we could put on our agenda and get a better explanation as to these agencies you're now working with to help with retention, because that sounds very promising too, and I'd like to know more about it. Thank you, Melanie.
Commissioner Tom,
Question?
any questions? Go ahead.
Good morning, Ms. Martin. I want to congratulate you, Department, for the 35 new mental health or medical positions that were approved by the governor. And I just have some questions to help clarify where we are with respect to those new positions. One, the first question, which seems sort of axiomatic, is there funding already approved for these 35 new positions?
No, not yet. We have to go to the legislature to get funding, but the governor approved it to be put forth, yeah, at the
Okay,
leg.
so this is going to go into the budget request, I suppose,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Well, that's great. Do you know how much you guys are requesting?
Not off the top of my head, but I want to say, like, I don't know, was it 2 million? Don't quote me. I can get that information to you, Judge.
I appreciate that. How long do you think, or how broad have you guys, maybe you guys haven't had a chance to really plan it out, but when you start, assuming everything receives the money, in particular, there's a great need for licensed psychiatrists. Have you guys come up with how much it's going to cost and where you're going to recruit for those positions?
Too early to tell for now, but I mean, I can get that information from our healthcare.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Okay,
much.
so I just found the answer, Judge. We requested $2.6 million for these positions.
Is that for the biennium?
Yeah.
Thank you.
That 2.6 million, just to clarify, is because it's supposedly going to cover 35 positions.
Well, we're going to probably need to go into the ledge and ask for more in the next biennium, to be honest with you. But yeah, that's our initial ask right now.
All right, thank you. That kind of concerns me because there's such a great need, and I don't think, based upon my work experience, that $2.6 million is even close to what is going to be needed if the department's going to be able to have a chance at filling these much-needed 35 positions. But I mean, I'm sure the commission is willing to go to the ledge and help you folks advocate for this particular request.
We would appreciate that. And I agree with you. It's probably not enough. And so thank you for that. And also in terms of recruitment, I think that we really need to broaden our recruitment net and look and be more expansive in where we look. So stay tuned up for that. Stay tuned.
Thank you.
I think the budget issue is we will support, but I also know, and I really don't know where I'm going to quote this from. Those positions statewide are in shortage.
Mhm.
Yeah. Hawaii just has not very well in terms of drawing these professions to Hawaii. So I'm hoping that once budget is approved and all that is improved, there's some kind of alternative to find or service providers to fill the gaps as we go into searching for these positions that don't, or individuals that we're having a hard time already in the rest of the state to fill. I'm only saying that as at my time at the youth facility, it took us almost 5-6 years to hire a psychiatrist. One. Yeah. So good luck for you on the success of moving this forward, and hopefully we'll help figure out a way to assure that we can get people to fill those positions. On another note, Melanie, can you explain just a little bit more detail on the relationship between DCR and Chicago Beyond and what we hope to provide from them?
Certainly. So Chicago Beyond is a philanthropic organization. So we don't pay them. They're not consultants. They're a philanthropic organization that promotes a holistic safety framework. And what that means is that we all have a right to feel safe in our facilities. So they aim to reduce the physical isolation of individuals in custody. So more out of cell time, for example. Also to reduce the emotional isolation of staff. And so another initiative is to promote staff wellness. And then also to reduce the psychological isolation between the individuals in custody and our DCR staff. So that to break down the barriers and to reduce that mentality of us versus them. So that's the holistic safety framework in a nutshell. And what happened was that we partnered with them like in 2023, and we have implemented a strategic plan to incorporate all of these different initiatives that encompass this framework. So we have that staff wellness response team. We have focus groups for individuals in custody to discuss things that matter to them, and that's part of the Chicago Beyond initiative. So recently there was a study done on this holistic safety framework, and it has had a positive impact throughout the nation. And I can share with you the link to that report. You'll see, and I think Kristen Johnson has a copy of it. You'll see that there are many pictures of Hawaii DCR in it, because we're like spearheading and trailblazing the way for other jurisdictions to follow in terms of like our family reunification program, our staff wellness, and whatnot. So anyway, that's Chicago Beyond in a nutshell.
Thank you, Melanie. That sounds very promising. We'll take a look at it. Christian just informed me that we do have a copy of that. And any more questions, we'll follow up. Thank you, Melanie, for that report. I really appreciate you being here. Let's move on to the next agenda item, which is the overview of the Oversight Coordinator Report. Christian?
Hi, thank you. And happy December. All right, so first and foremost, unfortunately, we always start with death in custody. So on Sunday, November 16th, 2025, at approximately 2:20 p.m., a male in custody, 56 years old at Halava Correctional Facility was found by medical staff in the infirmary unresponsive and not breathing when checking for medical signs. Medical staff immediately checked for a pulse, but no pulse was detected. The descendant was pronounced deceased by medical staff at 3:30 p.m. An autopsy will determine the official cause of death. And on Wednesday, November 19th, 2025, at approximately 3:53 p.m., a male in custody, 66 years old at Sparrow Correctional Facility in Arizona, was pronounced deceased at a hospital in Tucson, Arizona. DCR records indicate that the descendant was hospitalized on October 11th for abdominal pain. An autopsy will determine the official cause of death. And on Saturday, November 29th, 2025, at approximately 4:50 a.m., a male in custody, 56 years old, at Halava Correctional Facility was found by medical staff in the infirmary unresponsive. Medical staff immediately attached an AED, started CPR, and alerted 911. EMS arrived around 4:59 a.m. and continued life-saving measures. At approximately 5:35 a.m., EMS transported the patient to the hospital. At approximately 5:48 a.m., DCR security were informed that the patient was pronounced deceased by medical staff. An autopsy will determine the official cause of death. Those were 3 deaths that happened in November. Unfortunately, I have 2 additional deaths to announce that happened in December. These 2 that I'm about to announce will be in our next Oversight Coordinator report. So on Tuesday, December 2nd, 2025, at approximately 9:20 a.m., a male in custody, 45 years old, was found unresponsive on suicide watch at OCCC. Medical staff were immediately informed and immediately directed staff to call 911. The decedent was transported to the hospital at 9:57 a.m. and pronounced deceased at 10:39 a.m. in the emergency room at the hospital. Initial reports do not indicate a guess on potential cause of death, but an autopsy will determine the official cause of death and the official time of death as well. On Friday, December 5th, 2025, at approximately 11:46 a.m., a male in custody, 48 years old, was found unconscious and unresponsive in a cell at Halava. Security staff immediately started CPR until medical staff arrived to continue CPR. At approximately 12:17 p.m., EMS arrived at the scene and transported the decedent to the hospital emergency room at approximately 12:26 p.m. The cause of death appears to be a suicide, but an autopsy will determine the official cause of death and again, the official time of death as well. Moving on in the report to tours. So on November 18th, I was able to join the ACLU for a tour of OCCC. This was a really insightful tour. I don't believe that any of the members of the ACLU had been throughout OCCC before. The warden was fantastic. We were able to go everywhere in the facility that the ACLU wanted. So I really appreciate the warden and I appreciate the ACLU for touring and continuing to foster that collaborative relationship for finding better solutions for people in custody and for staff. For events attended, Chair Patterson and I on November 4th had participated in a Civil Beat editorial interview. This was a very fun event for us. We got to talk all about the commission and our work, which is one of my favorite things to talk about. It was not intentional that we matched. I was asked that many times, but it made the pictures look great. So you can check out that article on Civil Beat's website. I believe it's also posted on our website too. Staff also attended WCCC's Mental Health Day. This was really an uplifting day that was dedicated to honoring the women who are in mental health programming. And so they were able to share songs, poetry, artwork, different performances. And so that was a really special event for our staff to attend. And on November 14th, our staff attended the Hawaii Homeless and Housing Conference 2025. This was a huge conference that sold out very quickly, but it was a huge success. The conference emphasized trauma-informed and culturally grounded care. Legislators were there, different government stakeholders and nonprofits. And we also had our own reentry oversight specialist, Kimmy Takata, who shared her powerful story of resilience and healing. So we really appreciate Amy sharing her story at these types of events and being able to attend that in general. For reports, last month we had posted and also reported on the Halava Correctional Facility site observations. In the Oversight Coordinator report, we just kept all of the recommendations that came from that report. Attached to the Oversight Coordinator report is the department's response to those recommendations. Other than that, just very briefly, the projects that we're currently working on is still our case management system. We had a couple pauses just with Thanksgiving and weddings and different events going on. But it's still moving forward and we're very excited to get that completed. And lastly, this will be in next month's report covering December, but I did want to announce that we hired a new staff member. We filled our prison oversight specialist position. We are thrilled to have Chris Albritton with us on our team. We're very fortunate to have him. He has fantastic correctional expertise and investigative experience. And so we're excited to continue to grow our investigations and monitoring efforts with now our 2 investigators that we have. And that is it for me.
Thank you, Kristen. And welcome, Peter. He's not back over here, but welcome
Great.
to our first meeting. Chris?
Great.
What I said, Chris. Any testimony from the public on the oversight report at this time?
A question at the right time, Mark.
Hi, Carrie Ann. You have a question? Oh, I mean, testimony?
Aloha and good morning. Sorry, I'm just trying to get used to the new format. Attorney and criminal justice advocate. I have some questions and comments relating to the deaths in custody. I greatly appreciate the fact that these updates are shared by the commission with a little more detail that sometimes is found on the department's website. But I would like to suggest for the department, in the interest of transparency and accountability, that on the website itself, that they comport with the federal law, which requires more demographic and other details. I understand that there's a state law for the reporting as well as the federal, but the state is required to submit that information to the federal government. And so that information should be made public. Currently, our reports online are missing. It provides, they're not providing the specific age. They provide the name and the sex, but they're not providing the race or ancestry. And I think that's really troubling, given the fact that we know that there are disparate representation of Native Hawaiians and Pacific Islanders within our correctional system, and that information should be made public, and it also comports with the federal law. When you look at the reports itself, there's a sort of category as the reason as to why it might be the death. And if you compare some of that data, sometimes the reports that come out from Civil Beat, you know, it's a very different picture. And so what duty is there for the department to update that information that is to the public? For example, they may say not known investigation, but later on revealing that people are either dying by suicide, which is not reflected in the reports, and even other instances where someone is assaulted and then murdered, that information is not being updated. And if we are to shift to a system of rehabilitation, then we absolutely need to ensure that there's safe custody of people and that information is made public. It just sounds like at this point that we are unfortunately at a record high of deaths in custody. That is not a record that we want to be breaking. And so it just seems to me that there's a pattern and practice of occurrences, but there's an uptick in suicides and murders inside of our facilities. And that needs to be scrutinized. The public, the legislature, the governor, everyone needs to be aware of it. So I ask that the department in their reporting update it and that they comport with the federal law. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie Ann. Anyone else? Commissioner Tone?
Yes, just for the record, there's quite an article in Civil Beat today. More homeless people are dying on Oahu. Can we reverse the crisis? It's data driven. It's anecdotal driven. I don't think they were necessarily in custody. They may have been in custody or about to go into custody, but I just want to highlight that article written by, I believe, Jeremy Hay. And I'm not sure how to respond to it because I'm just beginning to think about it more.
Okay. Thank you, Judge Tom. Commissioner Attorney?
On the deaths in custody, Kristen, I don't know whether you know this or not, but we're aware that at Halava, one of the corridors more or less is a nursing home now. People that should be going through compassionate release. So these two deaths that took
Right.
place in the medical unit, do you know if they were part of that population long-term in the infirmary?
Yeah, my understanding is that the three deaths actually noted in the oversight coordinator report, so the first three were all kind of longer term care
Okay.
patients. Yeah,
And those are the people we should be aiming at with compassionate release.
exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Commissioner Browning?
Yeah, I just want to echo, I agree with Ms. Schroeder about the need to conform and comply with federal law, as well as the importance of transparency, particularly when talking about these type of, I'm going to say incidents, since I can't think of another word. But I do want Ms. Rhoda, as well as everybody else who may be listening, to know that the commission is well aware of this issue and has been addressing this issue. I've been, and other commissioners have been with our coordinator, Kristen Johnson, at various different meetings with the Attorney General and others to address exactly the point that you're making and the need to provide the commission as well as the public with the kind of information that is so important in terms of understanding complexities of the correctional system. And I also note that one of the it's one of the reasons why we have two investigators to delve into questions that we might have regarding these tragedies.
I want to take this time to ask the Oversight Coordinator to update us commissioners on the Commission's effort at this time and her staff's efforts in following up on death reports.
Yes, thank you. So I think 2 years ago now, Chair Patterson and I went to a conference that was specifically focusing on death in custody. It was horrific, but very eye-opening. It was a 2-day conference. And when we came back, we decided to basically dedicate the commission to creating almost like a database of death in custody information. We started this project, I want to say, maybe 8 months ago. And what we did was we pulled every death in custody from 1990 to current date.
Right.
And then we reached out to all the medical examiners and what are the other ones? The coroners to get the actual autopsy report straight from them. We have received hundreds of them. We have them all updated and logged in our spreadsheet. We're still missing about 150. And so we went back to the department to try to find those. But basically, once we have all the information uploaded and ready to go, we will be creating a public dashboard on our website where people will have all the information that Ms. Shirota had brought up as far as race, ethnicity, gender, sex, official cause of death, what appears to be a death at that time. Any death in custody that comes in, we request the autopsy immediately. The autopsies do take about 6 months to finish, but we do follow up and make sure we do our due diligence. And so we're very proud of this effort, but it is admittedly taking much longer than I thought it would. It took us, I think, 6 months to get all the autopsies from the medical examiners and coroner's office, including in Arizona. So we are moving forward on that. The other piece of that project will actually be putting out a report on trends that we're seeing. And so the goal behind all of this is, one, to acknowledge every person who we can who's died in custody. Because every single person has a family, has a life outside of jail or prison, and they shouldn't have died in prison or jail. But two, to try to prevent any future deaths. And so if we can find trends, if we can find, just information that isn't lining up or whatever the situation may be, it puts us in a much better situation that we can put forward recommendations that's based on our own data, and not just arbitrary information. And so this is something we are actively working on. In addition to all of that, we do receive the priority 1 death notifications, and this includes kind of a basic summary of what happened. When we get that, we always review it. And if there's anything that just seems off or questionable or weird, we'll request the video, we'll request, whatever information we need just to kind of double check it. We don't do that with every case because we want the department to be able to investigate. That is their job, to investigate every death and to complete death investigations. But those can take up to a year. And so now that we have investigators, we'll get into those death investigations more. But right now, our big focus is the Death in Custody Project, which encompasses that database and all the trends that we're going to pull from that information.
Thank you, Kristen. Commissioners, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I want to say this gently, but in a hospital, when you're in a hospital, you get what's called a hospitalist. It helps you try to get out and not get worse. Mm-hmm. It's called iatrogenic disease. It's a medical mischief of being in a hospital. God forbid that we make it worse with somebody in custody. In the military, we do after-action reports. And I've done grand rounds at the old, at St. Francis. The doctors all get together and say, how do we prevent the next death? Not death in custody, but death in care. And I cannot comment, there's plenty written on that. A gentleman named Lucian Leap out of Harvard did a lot of this. And as Judge Browning and I know this, whenever one occurred in court, we talked to the judges. Most of them are very receptive. Some would put their fingers in their ears. So this is really important to try to prevent the next one, understand how the last one happened, and deal with these. It's not exactly a death in custody, but there's plenty of applications out of the medical profession with what are called hospitalists. So I just want to commend that. And it seems to me that the medical staff in the facilities, the jail and the prison, have a lot to do here, a lot more to do. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Carrie Ann, for your testimony this morning. And I just wanted to share, death in custody has always been a concern, even prior to the forming of this commission, prior to the coming of Kristen as the oversight coordinator. But I'm very happy at the movement that we've made in the last 8 months as pushing to get the information that we need in order to create a better method of reporting these deaths, and more importantly, how to lower it, and how to stop it. And with this information, we hope to look at the patterns and look at what we can see so we can give the best recommendations to DCR in managing the situation that's occurring. So thank you, Christian, and your staff for all your hard work in providing and looking into this subject. Let's move on in our agenda to the overview and discussion of the Kulani Correctional Facility Tour and Report.
No.
Okay.
Wasn't
All
prepared.
right.
You got to ask me before the meeting.
No problem. Okay, so
It's like you, that's why.
on November 13th, the commission had toured the Kulani Correctional Facility collectively as a group. This happened directly after our meeting. So admittedly, there wasn't a ton of time to spend up there. It takes some time to get up there. And we did have to catch our flight. But in the time that we were there, we were able to find a few things that were great and a few things that were a little bit concerning. So to start off, just as an overview, the day that we were there, Kulani housed 86 incarcerated men with a capacity to hold 160. So this means the facility was at 54% capacity. The commission has continuously brought up this concern that our minimum facilities are not being utilized fully. And we continue to find minimum custody individuals at Halava and at Saguaro. And so that is something of concern. The grounds have been cleared pretty significantly. It was shocking to see. There used to be many old vehicles that were smashed and crushed and just car parts everywhere. All of that was cleared out, which was great. The warden has really worked hard just to clean up the facility for appearance and also for safety. But there are definitely still challenges. The facility's water plant has been non-operational for over 2 years, and this requires the facility to do daily hauling of water, which is a lot on staff. This issue has repeatedly been submitted for capital improvement funding, known as CIP, but it remains unresolved. And additionally, there are frequent power outages and connectivity issues, which really impacts the potential for technology-based programming. And especially when the community colleges are interested in, participating with people in custody at Kulani, but they want to do like a Zoom type program. That's very, very difficult for Kulani based on where they are. But nonetheless, they prevailed. The programs that they do have they have substance use disorder treatment levels 2 and 2.5, GED and vocational education, again, in partnership with the local community college, sex offender treatment programs, safety and vocational certification courses. One concern that we do have is that there's no level 3.0 program for substance abuse disorder class, and this is a parole recommended program. And so we're a little bit concerned on how that could potentially impact somebody's parole if the class isn't being offered at all. The commission also feels that there's a significant gap in cognitive, behavioral, and trauma-informed classes, such as thinking for a change or additional anger management programming. And staff at the facility had expressed, creating partnerships with community and culture-based organizations to fill those gaps. But we have not seen any indication of a concerted effort to make that happen. Library and education. The library was well stocked. All of our reports were found there, which was exciting to see. And they also had LexisNexis and other required legal references. The kitchen, overall, it was organized and operational. The one concern is that the refrigerator was reading 57 degrees, but staff were actually actively adjusting the thermostat to bring that temperature down. But we do want to make sure that the department continues to monitor that and ensure that the facility is in compliance with food safety standards. In general, people enjoy being at Kulani. They enjoy the food. They described it as restaurant style. And they appreciate that the food is served, that the food that is served is much better than other facilities. That's what was reported to us. For dorms 6 and 7, we got kind of stuck a little bit in this specific area. And so we weren't able to see the rest of the facility, unfortunately. But the time that we spent there was well spent because there were many, many men who were openly discussing their concerns. And a big concern was their fear of submitting any type of written request to their case manager or any written grievance. They're very, very afraid of, being retaliated against through transfer delays or being retaliated against through even being transferred back to Halava. So a lot of anxiety and fear was coming through. There were also frustration expressed with delays in case management, as far as their communication or clarity on program status or release timelines. Individuals expressed that they've waited extended periods to enter different classes due to limited staff. And so what we plan to do is our reentry oversight specialist and I are actually going back up to Kalani next week so that we can sit down and just hear a little bit more thoroughly about what's going on. But the biggest concern that I was hearing was that they're not feeling supported by their case management. And anytime they submit requests, they feel retaliated against. So they're afraid literally to even ask questions to their case managers. And that is a monumental problem when a minimum facility is meant for reentry and meant for trying to get people down to furlough and into programs on the outside and working. So we're definitely concerned about that. For recommendations, we just had some follow-up recommendations and we added a couple more. So just to give a couple updates on previous recommendations, we did previously recommend to offer in-person visitation and expand access to phone calls. That has happened. So this recommendation is considered fulfilled. We also recommended to increase the population at Kulani, as Kulani is one of the most rehabilitative facilities in Hawaii. We have found that that has not happened. And in fact, the population is lower now than it was in 2023. So again, the commission is extremely concerned because the previous response that we've heard was that it's because of how people are, what's the word? Went right on my head. Like the levels of
Classification.
how people are thank you, Alec. The concern was that the classification system is too restrictive. And the concern was that, people who are mediums could really be minimums. And the department is looking into the classification system. Now, the department is looking into the classification system, and the classification system probably is too restrictive. So I agree with them there, and I appreciate them looking into that and trying to fix that. But the concern that I have is that we currently have minimums and community at Halava and Saguaro. And so for me, it's unclear why those individuals are not moved to the minimum facilities that have bed space. Both Waiava and Kulani have bed space. So I don't mean to harp on this too much, but it is a huge issue when we're talking about people moving through the system and actually having a chance at, rehabilitation. The commission had also recommended removing the monetary eligibility requirement for furlough participation, as we saw that as a huge barrier for furlough sites. That has been taken care of, and so that recommendation has been completed. And we recommended reinstating the transportation shuttle for staff. This has not been completed. It's unclear to me if the department is interested in taking this on, but this was a big issue for staff because it seemed to go a very long way for staff morale. They really appreciated having a ride up. It's a long drive up there. A couple additional recommendations that we had added is prioritize maintenance and repair of the water system. So again, the water plant has been non-operational for 2 years, requiring that daily haul of water. We will continue to follow up with the department on this. It does sound like they're doing their due diligence by submitting requests to the legislature. It's just a matter of that actually being funded. Prioritize maintenance and repair of dorm 7. We just found some longstanding issues, just plumbing issues, tiles, leaking ceilings in the dorm 7 bathroom. And also there was a lack of heat. And it does get very cold up at Kulani, and so that is extremely important. And then the last recommendation is to improve digital connectivity. This is not an easy recommendation to do. But the department should secure funding to improve digital connectivity to support education and rehabilitation on tablets, computers, and other digital options, given where that facility is. So that is all I have, unless Commissioner Torney, I know you were also on the tour, unless you had anything to add.
Maybe we should get the public comments first, and then
Okay.
We open it up at this time to the public testimony on what was just presented in terms of the Commission's Kulani Correctional Facility tour in November. Carrie Ann?
Aloha, Commissioners, and apologies. I'm not sure if I can show myself on the screen or if I'm precluded from doing so. But I would like to comment about the Kulani tour. Thank you so much to Kristen and to the team for doing a thorough visit and sharing those recommendations with us. think we need to discuss just sort of systemically this issue of why are we continuing the practice of sending our people. And unfortunately, this month makes 30 years since we started exporting our people to private for-profit prisons over the years, impacting not only those individuals, but their family as well. In the department's report, the population weekly and monthly report, they put a design and operational capacity of 200 at Kulani. And I think I heard you mention 150. And so if it is actually 150, I would appreciate the Department of Corrections updating their data so that the community and others can review it.
Yes,
Clearly,
it's 160 is the official rated capacity.
okay, thank you. On the department's monthly and weekly, it's listed as 200.
I know.
And
Yeah.
so where it's under 50%, it's not even 50% capacity, it's clearly underutilized, that's been described. I think this is also true of Waiava and for some of our community correctional jails. And the number of people who are at Saguaro and Halava could be moving to Kulani and then transitioning back home into the community. And some people may choose to max out, but I would like to, I think, refocus this on the laws that are in place. Under Act 8, which was passed in 2007, it mandates that the department return people home within at least a minimum a year of their max out date. But the law does not preclude the department from bringing people home even earlier. And so, I think again, I would like to commission meeting. While it's important and it's great that there are a number of positive events that are occurring, there should be an accountability as to how are they complying with Act 8 or have a written report. They are required by law to submit an annual legislative report relating to Act 8. The one for this year is not uploaded yet, but when I look at that, again, it's just a very sort of, oh, these are the reasons why individuals are not returning. And I think that's a number of those are suspect. As an attorney, as an advocate, as someone who worked for a reintegration program for many years in Maui, it was not uncommon when people were doing well and sort of moving through the system that as they got closer to either maybe being coming home from Saguaro or even moving from Halava elsewhere to come back to Maui, where all of a sudden people are now have write-ups. And they're in this dilemma. Do you challenge the write-up? Do you grievance? But if you grievance, is there going to be retaliation? This is an ongoing issue. And if that's the case, it just reinforces, right? No accountability inside. What are the case managers doing? How is the reentry team within the department helping people to transition to move this? I think the good news is that the classification system is within the department's discretion. So if it is too restrictive, which I believe it is, that is something they can change. But how long does it take them to change a classification system, knowing that this is part of the problem? In addition to Act 8, the House Concurrent Resolution 153 was passed this legislative session that requested the Department of Corrections to incrementally and systematically reduce the number of incarcerated people in private out-of-state correctional facilities. They will also be required to provide an update to the legislature that will be made public, and so that we can have oversight over the next 5 years. What strategies are they employing to bring people home? And so I just want to read really quickly from their testimony on that resolution. They said that we agree that we would like to return inmates long ago, but for the lack of space in its correctional facilities in which to house them, including the lack of appropriate rehabilitation programs for these inmates, DCR has no other choice but to send them to private out-of-state facilities. And so, as we've heard today, the evidence is very clear. We have space and there are programs. It may not be perfect, but so this excuse from the department is not acceptable. And we would really like to see, as community members and families impacted by incarcerated, that not only lawmakers provide more oversight and work with the commission, but that our governor also makes steps. If we are truly trauma-informed states, we will bring people home and do everything in our power to provide trauma-informed care to get them reunited, reconnected with family and Aina, and that become contributing members of our community. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you, Carrie Ann. Commissioners and comments? Commissioner Tornay?
Uh, I do want to make a comment on page 3 of the report, talks about the increase of population in Kulani, as Kulani is one of the most rehabilitative facilities in Hawaii. I would say it has the ability to be one of the most rehabilitative facilities in Hawaii, but the programs are very limited right now. And one of the things that Kristen touched on is, first of all, it's difficult to have the connectivity to allow them to participate in college programs, which is a problem that really is beyond the control of the department, and the department is trying to resolve it. But we no longer have any correctional industries up there that train people in work skills or specifically job training programs. Warden Rowe did express an interest in getting commercial driver license training because they do have a lot of trucks up there. They have the room for people to be practicing. So I hope that he is successful in getting that, because it's his understanding that on the Big Island, they do not have enough commercial drivers to do all the trucking that needs to be done. But again, I want to stress, we have a long way to go to make Kulani what it could be. It's not there yet.
Yep.
Any other comments?
Oh, right.
We'll take one more from the public so we can move on in our agenda. Ronald?
Thank
Unmute.
you. The system is new, so I'm not sure if everything is going well, but I wanted to comment as Ohana Opakele on the visit to Kulani. Kulani is very dear to us at Ohana Opakele, not only because it's physically on Mokuo Keawe and close to us, most of us live in the East Hawaii area, but it's also included in Act 117, where that was passed into law in 2012 that designates Kulani as the preferable site for pu'onua, that the department should work with Ohana Hopakele and other restorative justice groups to preserve, to start a program like a pu'onua. We have been trying to get into Kulani, and I hope Kalihao, who's on this session, can talk about it. But for some reason, we have not made inroads so that we can start working with the Pahao there to do like a Makahiki program, which we have proposed. We are doing Makahiki, which we did in Saguaro and at Halava this past week, but we cannot understand why Kulani hasn't opened up. Thank you, Carrie Ann, for noting that the bed space when it was originally built was for 200 people. And I don't know why that has changed, because that was always stated in evidence before. So if only 86 people out of 200 bed space are being used, that's only 43%. And so not only should minimum people on minimum sentences be allowed to go back to Kulani, I wondered if people who are over, 60 years old, like in the Oversight Commissioner's report, there was somebody who was 66 years old who died in Arizona. Well, Kulani used to have people who were life without parole people at Kulani before they were sent to Saguaro. And some of the men in Saguaro had been in Kulani. So, it's better to have them back in Hawaii closer to loved ones, where if their health is poor, the family can go and visit. So it's very disturbing to hear that the Pahao themselves are afraid that if they put in a report that they might be sent to Halava. So Halava is being used as a threat to people because they're afraid. Like even in Saguaro, they're afraid to come back to Hawaii because instead of being sent to Kulani, they might get stuck in Halava. So, that is it. It's very alarming that among the Pahau themselves, they're afraid that if they speak out, they might be retaliated and put in Halava, which in their minds is a worse place to be. So we ask Oversight Commission to assist us to get into Kulani and even help propose that elderly people who would rather be at Kulani than in Saguaro be allowed to choose to be back so family can meet with them. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron.
I can answer the question about the capacity. Ron, when Kulani was built, they didn't do capacities of facilities in the 40s. It was in the 2001 report, when we did the capacities, we came up with a capacity for 160 at Kulani. That was, I don't have the report in front of me. I usually do, but I don't have it with me. That was based in part of the water restrictions that we had up there, and there was no wastewater treatment plant. Since that time that report was written, we did create those things. As Kristen has said, right now, the water system is not working properly. But with the creation of those systems, I was there when we reopened Kulani, and I don't remember us changing the capacity to 200, but that's probably why it was moved up to 200. Never happened officially, but it was added to the spreadsheet at 200. Otherwise, it was 160 prior to that.
Thank you, commissioners, and thank you, Christian, for that report. We want to move on in our agenda items at this time. And we'll continue to follow up and work with the Kulani concerns that were brought up today. Interstate Compact. We're going to talk item number 7 on our agenda, Interstate Compact transfers follow-up.
Okay, so during the last meeting, there was a fair amount of public testimony about interstate compacts, which caused a fair amount of questions from the commissioners. And so I put together what the commissioners had asked and just kind of brief responses to add a little bit more insight to the interstate compact process, and also STG. That was actually, I think that was a larger part of the conversation, was the gang affiliation. I just want to note this is very brief because now that we have investigators, we're going to be able to dig into these types of issues much, much deeper. So some of this is going to be a little surface level, so bear with me on that. But again, I also want to reiterate, if you're listening right now and you have a family member or friend who is in custody and they're struggling with any of these things, please have them write to us. Our information is on our website, hcsoc.hawaii.gov. You can also call our office. You can email me. We can talk. But just know that these are issues that we are now starting to actively look into. So one of the questions was, does a state verify STG status or go by hearsay? So the department does verify security threat group status. They do this by doing individual interviews, and then they have a very specific, almost like a checklist worksheet that they work off of, where they ask specific questions and document all the answers. So it's not just a matter of what other people are saying. They actually do sit down with the individual person. They also oftentimes use gang tattoos as an indicator. It's a pretty big indicator you're in a gang if you have a gang tattoo. And so the department tries to keep updated pictures of gang tattoos. The next question was, if there's no longer an affiliation or the person is not a shot caller, how can the person be rehoused to a rehabilitative space rather than deteriorate in segregation? So one of the many concerns that we found, but one of the big concerns is that there's no step down process once you're labeled as a gang member. There's no drop your flag process or a way to become unaffiliated. This is not best practice. This is not what many other jurisdictions do. But what we do here is, if the department understands that you are potentially unaffiliated, they'll sit down, they'll interview you, they'll look at your institutional history, and basically do a debrief with you where sometimes they're willing to note that you're inactive. So they're not noting you as you're not a gang member, but you might be an inactive gang member. One of the questions was, how is the STG determination made? So again, I think a fair amount of it comes from institutional behavior first. So for example, like if you got caught with a tattoo gun or drugs or anything like that, but it's the interview and that questionnaire that I talked about. Like that's the core of how they determine gang status or if there is a gang status. And does the person in custody have the opportunity to make a case for being unaffiliated? So again, unfortunately not. It's either active or inactive in the department right now. This is something that the director and I are having pretty frequent conversations about, and he seems very open to taking a deeper look at this process and taking a look at what other jurisdictions are doing. And so I do have some confidence that it won't always be like this, but I really appreciate the public bringing it forward. Yeah, and the last question was the same thing. Is there a debriefing process? So same idea there. No, basically, you're either active or inactive. I will say, just because you may be gang affiliated doesn't mean that you can't be housed at Waiava or Kulani. I've met a fair amount of folks who are gang affiliated in those spaces. I think it's more when you're considered higher level in the gang and potentially participating in gang activity on a more frequent level. So like a shot caller probably would not be housed in those spaces. But again, I think that's more about institutional history and not necessarily the shot caller status by itself. But again, if there's family who are listening and you would like to write to us, please do, and we will look into your individual situation. And if you have written to us, I really appreciate your patience. Like I said, we just hired our prison oversight specialist who will be investigating on the prison side, so especially Saguaro and Halava. But this is a brand new position that the commission didn't have before. And so we have a lot of backlogged cases to get through that we're very excited to get through. So thank you for your patience if you have written to us. And if you haven't, please feel free to do so we can look into your loved one's situation.
Thank you, Kristen. Is there any testimony on Christian's report from the public?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kat. I can
Aloha.
hear you.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. I'm concerned on the interstate impact, the out-of-state interstate compacts. A person from Halava was shipped to South Carolina and has been, he was not a management problem. He was in for a parole violation, and they knew that he had an upcoming parole hearing, and yet they shipped him. He didn't even know where he was going. They just told him to pack up his room and get on the plane. He had no idea where he was going, why he was going. He is the only Hawaii inmate in South Carolina. And many people there, workers, do not even understand why he's there. And one of the problems is that when he got there, a lot of the people who are incarcerated there were wondering, what are you doing here? And who are you? And that has created a problem because the rumor is going around that he is law enforcement. And that puts him in harm's way. So not only should he not have been sent out of state, he should have been able to stay here to be at his parole hearing. So now he has been paroled in a video conference from South Carolina on November 26th. And we're wondering, how do we get him home? Because it seems like the department violated the law by sending him there. So how do we fix this? This is really awful. Thank you.
Thank you, Kat. Anything else, George?
Nina Kealoha.
Okay, okay. Nina?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
we can.
Oh, okay, sorry. So I want to thank you for the opportunity. And so it's very interesting because Kat is actually talking about my partner Reef, right? And I understand before I continue, I want everybody to understand that I do understand that there is a due process to bring him home, right? Um, so I just wanted to give you guys an update really, really on just how his mindset is right now. And it's getting a little bit frustrating and a little bit overwhelming for him. And I've been trying to keep him positive. So my question is, because he is part of the interstate compact, is is there like a certain time frame that we should be looking at? Because in my personal experience, um, and I'm gonna share my experience, but I was paroled from the mainland about, many, many years ago, and it took about 2 to 3 months to get back to Hawaii. But at least we knew that because the Department of Correction would tell us that. You know what I mean? They would let us know, you're paroled, this is about how long it's gonna take, and this is the process. So unfortunately, he doesn't have anything like that. He doesn't have someone he can call from Hawaii and be like, oh, is there anything that, other than waiting that I should be doing, or what kind of time frame am I looking at, you know, because it's overwhelming for him. You know what I'm saying? And so my question to you guys is there a specific time frame you guys are aiming for when you have to bring somebody back that is part of the interstate compact and not just a part of Saguaro per se? I don't know if that makes sense, but because it's these individual prisons that we are switching off with. So is it that we're waiting for them to switch out with somebody? Is it like a body for body, or it's just the transport is not available? Thank you.
Thank you, Nina.
Sorry. I'm so sorry.
I have to look into that case individually.
Commissioners, any questions?
Well, I just want to say to Nina, I presume, Nina, you were in one of the facilities that was under contract with the department. So it was very clear, like every 3 months or 6 months, there would be a transport. And you were correct in noting that it may be a transportation problem. I do have one question, though, Nina. Was he paroled, or was it chair to set?
He was granted parole, and I've actually been working with the paroling authority, on his status, and because I'm one of his biggest support systems, and I want to make sure that everything goes accordingly. And there will be definitely some hiccups along the way, but from what I understand, speaking with HP, is that he was granted parole. Now,
Okay.
the issue is getting him from where he is now back to Hawaii so he can begin his parole journey and his transitional
Right.
journey.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
So,
In my mind, these interstate compacts are treaties between states. It's not just a rule, and it's really important that we follow them impeccably. And I think the default should be, when we can, for liberty for the inmate. That's all I have to say.
Judge Brown.
Well, I think the point is well taken, that if the state of Hawaii transports somebody to a different state and they go not voluntarily, but because they are in a status such as an inmate, the state has a requirement or absolutely has to bring them back.
Right.
So I don't even understand how this gets to be a problem.
Right.
So
I had this conversation with another individual yesterday. Transferring an individual for an interstate compact from Hawaii to whatever state and to return them is not going to be something that's revealed. We're revealed. When we say we're going to move on this day, we're going to return
we're
on
not
this
going
day.
to talk about
They're
it.
not going to talk about it because there is safety issues for the transportation. Yeah. So to get a date, it's kind of unrealistic to say that he's going to come back to Hawaii on December 28th.
Right.
He'll probably show up in Hawaii and nobody will know he's here.
Right.
Yeah. And that's really just security measures in moving somebody 4,000 miles across the country in the ocean to get him back here. So it's unrealistic to say that if we want a date on his return. However, that's the first. The state will have the responsibility to return him. They just may not share with you the date that they're going to bring him back.
That's why I was asking about the question of
Yeah.
chair to set, because the chair to set gives the department a lot of flexibility when they're going to bring them back, as opposed to them saying you are paroled as of this date.
Understood. It seems to me though that he and his family have not even been given the information
Yes.
that he is going to be returned.
Yes.
They don't have to provide a date, but simply allaying their concerns and anxiety by telling them, yes, you'll be returned, would be helpful.
That would be
And that's the parole board.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, folks, for those concerns, and we'll continue to manage and monitor and find out specifically on this individual case, Nina and Kat, in regards to the South Carolina concerns. As we move on into our agenda, the commission needs to go into an executive session in accordance with the Hawaii Revised Statute, Section 92.4, 92.5A6, and 92.5A8. And the commission anticipates in the executive session to discuss a commission investigation being conducted pursuant to HRS Section 3531. Those of you who have the agenda, you can see it there written on there if you have any questions on why we want to go into executive session. But before I do that, and not really understanding how long that's going to be, I want to offer any public testimony at this time for those of you who may be short on time and may not be here after we're finished on any issues that you may have at this particular point in time that you want to bring forward to the commission. So I'm opening the floor at this time for public comment.
Carrie Ann.
Go ahead, Carrie Ann.
Thank you, commissioners. I'm sorry, I did have my hand up. I wanted to comment on the Interstate Compact Act. I think in terms of looking at the systems and how they are or not working together, there needs to be greater clarification of eligibility criteria so that people who are incarcerated, their families, the community, and even people working within the system, that are the criteria that's set up, is it being adhered to? Having some guidance in place. And I understand there's the Interstate Compact Act, there's the Western Compact. There's some criteria that some states vary overall in some of the processes and protocol, but I think there needs to be clarification regarding that. And that if there is a challenge, maybe based upon the facts, what would be the process for that individual or even their family to raise? What would be that protocol? The second is that there has been a lack of transparency surrounding the interstate transfer of people from Hawaii. In 2006, the Department of Justice issued a special issues in corrections, and Hawaii was, I think, one of maybe 2 or 3 states that did not respond to the survey. Right. And this has been a typical pattern. And so in the annual report put up by the department, I have never seen data relating to interstate compact transfers. In their weekly and monthly reports, there is no data relating to interstate. So literally people could be disappearing and the public and the commission and others would not have any way of verifying that. So that needs to be, even if there are specific factual circumstances, we agree it should be kept confidential when there's safety custody. reporting the data,
OSS would be the.
how many people age, et cetera, that should be made public. And last, really quickly, is that there also needs to be continuing oversight. I understand that the receiving state, to a degree, takes on all of these responsibilities, but to what level of oversight is that state held to? Because that person was convicted in Hawaii and they're being transferred, either oftentimes not voluntarily. And there have been incidents where people have been killed and died when they were transferred to Compact Act. So for those reasons, we like greater transparency, greater for clarification, and continuing oversight when people are transferred out of state. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie Ann. We'll continue to follow up on the issues that you bring forward. Thank you.
Leilani.
Who else?
Leilani.
Go ahead. Leilani.
Hi, thank you, commissioners. I just wanted to follow up on a few of these comments about the interstate compact. Thank you for the opportunity to just continue this conversation. So I just wanted to raise a structural issue I'm seeing and how DCR is managing certain protected custody inmates who are also adverse witnesses in STG cases that have been adjudicated by the Attorney General's office. Last time I did speak about how the Attorney General's office can be party to these conversations that are very formative and that would save the state a lot of money in terms of wrongful death lawsuits and things that have to do with interstate compacts. So these folks are individuals who are compelled by the state to testify against active STG members. And then they're being forced into an interstate compact transfer. Under DCR policy, they're placed as PC because of the danger they face. But what I'm observing is this form of policy slippage where they're coded in offender link as STG affiliated because of DCR lack of policy with no meaningful internal process to account for the fact that becoming an adverse witness that the state compelled them to do, in fact, in this recent case, is a form of gang disengagement or gang cast outs. That's the missing piece here. I think that is not just confined to one individual case you're seeing, it's confined to a cohort. And so I think there needs to be a higher level of scrutiny from the former judges who are on this commission to lead the discussion between the attorney generals and the DCR in order to really drill down into what is happening with these individuals. They are being sent out with active STG labels because of this lack of policy, because of this lack of healthy practice that the state of Hawaii has collectively failed to do. So I just wanted to flag that, that these witnesses need protection. It doesn't really involve sending them off to Florida or North Carolina. It involves an in-house solution that has to do with all of these facilities that you're so wonderfully monitoring. There needs to be some leadership collectively coming out of this, because if you send these witnesses overseas, they're going to face the same type of problem of being scrutinized on these new yards. As the former testifier whose husband is just having been done and gone through hell. So I just wanted to kind of just say that again on the record here. And I thank you so much for your efforts in hearing this out.
Mahalo, Leah. Thank you.
Nina Kealoha.
Nina?
Hi, guys. Thank you again, once again. So I think I just wanted to just say that, somebody made a good point about giving Reef some kind of, I want to say comfort in a sense, because he's been there about 3 months and he has not spoken to anyone from DCR in the 3 months that he was there. And I know that there is some quarterly monitoring that should be done. And I think honestly, that's where his biggest issue is that he doesn't feel important enough to the Department of Corrections that they'll check on him. You know what I'm saying? And therefore, that's where that mindset comes from, from our interstate compact, individuals that they're forgotten. So things like that, I think that could be maybe, improved upon, better communication between whatever facilities they're partnering with, in just giving the inmates some kind of like, okay, we remember that you're there, and we're making sure that you're good. That kind of comfort, I want to say. I had the word right on my tongue, but that's pretty much, I think, what his biggest issue is that he felt like he was put somewhere and then that was it. That's it's done. He's forgotten, he's paroled, but it doesn't matter because you're just there. You know what I'm saying? But thank you. And I think that was a really good point that was brought up about, a, a systematic communication, whether it's between the caseworkers at that facility or between DCR and the inmate, you know.
Thank you,
Thank
Nina.
you.
Commissioners, any comment on what we just heard in testimony? Okay. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to ask the commissioners who are here at this time, am I good?
Yeah, just went to,
For a motion?
so I move that we go into an executive session for the purpose of discussing an investigation that we are involved with.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we move into an executive session at this particular time. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say same. Motion carried. Let me
We're kind of wiggling now, George, we're getting it.
I can hear some people in the background.
It could just be because of the weather, like the Wi-Fi.
Everyone, we're back in the meeting. Hopefully,
Getting feedback.
You know, a lot of our and looking at all appropriate actions. So that was the purpose for it. Other than that, I will give one more opportunity for public testimony if there are any.
Hands up.
Just want to state, I know you meant to say. The commission's done, if one sees present on the matter to. Present at another meeting.
Yes.
Meeting.
Yes. Thanks. But no, further hands up in the air. I want to just announce that.
Hands off.
Yeah. Next Thursday, Thursday, January 8th, next year. Sounds like it's for 2026 will be our next meeting here on Washington. We will be postponing the Guayaba visit today due to the rain and the weather conditions at the time. So that said, commissioners, I want to wish folks a Merry Christmas, happy season for all of you who continue to support us here at the Hawaii Commission, support us in the community. Safe holidays to you as well. Aloha and aloha.
Aloha. Thank you.